Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to the town hall, and thanks again for everyone joining and being part of the community. And for those that couldn't make it, when you get to hear this amazing presentation and conversation, because we are somewhat informal here with the town hall, much like you might find in small towns around the world. We're delighted to have some special VIP guests today. And with that, let me actually share my screen so we have some visual context here as well. And then I'll pass the mic to our guests. And is the agenda on the town hall webpage on HR Tech Alliances. We've got Raleen Gagnon from TalentEdgeAI, the CEO, and we also have Maan Hamdan, who's currently in Dubai, just spoke at an AI conference and coming to us live in the evening after a long day, I'm sure. And thank you for joining us. Maan's the founder and managing director of HEXA Global Ventures and all around swell guy, somebody I've had the pleasure to work with for like at least 8 years and beyond, and consider a good friend. And I'm glad that we're able to get one of your new offerings that we talked about briefly in one of our press release reviews a week or two ago. And now we get to hear from the founders and the thought leaders behind it. So with that, I'd like to pass the mic to Maan, and if you would introduce yourself, the background of HEXA Global Ventures, and certainly how you got involved in helping launch Talent Edge AI.
Thank you, Ward. Thank you. Well, I have to say, almost everything I have built in my life, I owe Ward because, when we worked together at HR Smart, he really helped me build a very strong company that I exited back in 2015, fairly successfully, although 2008 hurt us significantly. We were able to recover and sell the company. And in my retirement after that, I decided to pay it forward and create an ecosystem to help entrepreneurs build very successful companies and learn from my mistakes that I made along the way and help them boost whatever effort they're making. And my vision for that ecosystem, I called HEXA, and that the name goes after the hexagon because it was 6 entities. Each entity was a separate company that helped the entrepreneur in one area. I'm not going to go into the details of that, but fast forward that over the last few years since I started HEXA, I was able to help incubate or accelerate over 50 companies. Some of them ended up having great exits, and many of them were in HR and in AI. And some of them were both HR and AI. And in fact, two of those HR AI companies that HEXA had incubated and accelerated and exited very that and gave us a most beautiful gift, an introduction to Raleen, the lady that ran that product for them, who when I discovered her, really it was the biggest gift I could see because she has a wonderful vision, and she shared my vision of creating a solution for staffing that really is out of this world, literally. And the idea, the way I would describe it is we all know about the impact of AI on us. In fact, again, the company that, one of the companies that we built and exited, Trend Data, was a predictive prescriptive analytic company, and that I built in 2016. The other company we're talking about, Engage Talent, that we helped build and was, again, another AI staffing company. We built it in the 2018 time frame and exited in a couple of years later. The idea now is not just to build an AI HR technology company, but Raleen had the vision to take multiple AIs and then take multiple very strong sources of data from the market and build around them technology to create what really will be a game changer in the staffing industry. And I'm not going to talk much about it. She's the visionary. She's the one that's starting it. She's the one that's building it. All I can say is I have not, in all the companies I personally worked on or created, or the companies that I have incubated so far, I have not been excited about any company as much as this one. Having said all that,
He
Raleen,
flatters
I
me.
see you.
Thank you, Maan. Thank you. I appreciate it, although that was a big sell, so I'll try and keep up. To add to what Maan was saying, and I know we had a little audio challenge, we had the opportunity to come together over a product, Engage, that had previously been a part of the HEXA family that I was working with at Magnet. But prior to that, I've been in the HR management and staffing space for the last 20 years, running global market analytics teams and consulting groups that supported organizations looking to have the right data to determine strategies, whether it be towards investing in new markets, aligning and reconciling your staff after some M&A activity, or just building the right strategy to more effectively hire in a heavily competitive space. And frankly, a lot of what my team delivered over the past 2 decades, regardless of the tools and the data and the technology that was available, was by nature of the tools available, a manual process. So we could find data in all of the various solutions available for subscription, but none of the data was all in one place, and it was all mapped inconsistently. Terms were in different areas, and we had to normalize everything in our own databases to build out analysis on how wages or talent gaps were going to shift in the future state. And so if you don't mind my sharing, I can sort of walk you through how TalentEdge is going to be changing the game and redefining the hiring process. And so I just share this view here and put it into a slideshow mode.
And Raleen, you're being modest there when you mentioned doing analytics and things at staffing company. And we were talking manpower here. It wasn't like a tiny company, right?
It was not a tiny company, and we were working for some of the world's largest employers, to be sure, and trying to drive the right information to give them the ability to make decisions that would give them a competitive advantage. And at the end of the day, HR has evolved ever since COVID. Human resources and the challenges related to accelerating talent and keeping that talent within the business has become more and more critical. So instead of HR trying to come in behind the business strategy and fill the people into what was decided, the human resources has started to become a part of that strategy and decisioning. Unfortunately, even with human resources leading some of the strategy and decisioning, we are seeing, there we go, I couldn't advance my slide. We're seeing gaps in what HR can do today. The tech market has been flooded, and there's no end to what HR tech looks like today. But all of these solutions to make it easier for candidates to apply for jobs has resulted in hiring managers having thousands of resumes that they couldn't possibly go through, and fewer candidates than before truly having the right level of visibility that they may have deserved should their resumes have been given the accurate view. Candidates apply and go into a void, and so their experience has become less than awesome from their perspective, right? And so the hiring managers and the candidates are both struggling to get through this process with any level of satisfaction. And recruiters themselves are struggling to complete the process. Hiring managers are gun shy, they're waiting for the right talent. It's taking longer to find the right talent, and it's taking longer to get them to accept a role and to move to the next stage. And there's a ton of tools in the marketplace to help bring candidates to the recruiters and give them their options. The problem is no one tool provides a recruiter with everything that they need. So as a result, we see recruiters and talent acquisition teams having to invest in multiple resources to tap into different pockets of the talent that's available in the marketplace today. And I've just found it frustrating. So we decided as we were looking into the future that in order to have an edge and really be able to tap into the talent we needed to remove the limits. So let's provide unlimited wage data. Let's provide forecast of that unlimited wage data. Let's take the market data and provide a forecast with no limits or boundaries, unlimited candidate search, unlimited candidate contact data, and unlimited employer profiling. And we can do that at a much more cost competitive view to bring together all of the benefits of tools that recruiters are using today at a much more competitive price. So replacing the need for some of these other tools or allowing to augment these tools with certain portions of a TA or a recruiting team. And it means that we can use the technology in a way that isn't replacing the resources in the hiring process, but rather augmenting their capabilities, increasing their capacity, enabling them to hold more requisitions, improving the candidate and the hiring manager experience, and speeding up the hiring process in a way that's going to leave hiring managers fulfilled faster and candidates aware of where they're at in the process and not having to take the wrong job opportunity because it came through faster, right? Solving the key problems that have existed. Now, the hiring process hasn't changed. We have to analyze the market and decide what job we need to fill. We have to source for that role. We have to screen and interview candidates. And then we have to keep the communication cycle between recruiters, hiring managers, and candidates alive. And we do that by bringing together technology, as Maan said. And so with analysis, we provide a comprehensive workforce insight that allows for a current, a historical, and a forecasted view. Where will the talent be today and where will it be tomorrow? And where can you get the talent you need with the right budget? When you create that job, making sure that you have an accurate forecast of the talent demand and supply and understanding the turnover in a particular market. When you're sourcing for talent, instead of having to go to 18 job boards and send 25,000 emails in order to fill a team, use AI sourcing to identify the right candidates that are qualified for the role and do it at the click of a button. And when it comes to screening and interviewing, if you have thousands of candidates submitting your applications to your position, it's impossible to filter them through. So many of them just get disregarded and never seen at all. Instead, we can use on-demand interviewing powered by AI that allows for every candidate to be seen and evaluated and brought forward for consideration. So the recruiter can then leverage the input and the feedback from the AI recruitment tool and then determine who gets communicated through the natural process languaging and through the machine learning, the right messages related to their submission. So if someone completed the interview and wasn't the right fit, they're going to get a detailed summary of our appreciation of their interviewing process, feedback on why this wasn't the right role for them, and encouraging them to go back into the system and update what their skills are or what job it is or salary it is that they're looking for. And then those that are moving forward will, at the click of a button, simply be able to be notified that they have been selected to move forward to the next round of interviews. And here's the calendar link for the hiring manager so that you can schedule that at your convenience. No more waiting for recruiters to get feedback from the hiring manager and convey it to the candidates, and filling the gap that has been leading to a lot of frustration today. Now, AI is powering every part of the process, right? So we're pulling all of that market data in that I talked about. It's coming right into TalentEdge's platform. And the first thing we're doing is leveraging trend data that Maan referenced earlier in order to take that 4 years of historical data and build out a predictive model so that you can accurately see 6 months out. Will wages change in market A more than in market B? Will the turnover risk be greater in market B than market A? How will this knowledge allow us to make the right data-driven decision for our capacity planning, for our recruitment strategy?
Raleen,
is there a question? Yep.
Yeah. Let me ask something real quick here because I know the audience is curious.
Sure.
You said trend data, and I didn't catch entirely what Maan said earlier. Is that like data that's helping you track trends, or is that like the trend data company?
Trend Data is a company that built out predictive and prescriptive modeling driven by AI that Maan exited years ago that is still a part of the HEXA family. And so I'm able to partner with them and leverage their platform so that there will be a Trend Data module available later this month for clients to be able to access and get this visibility into the future market view.
Fantastic. No, that's great because a lot of us are in partnerships and alliances and, collaborating with other solutions. I know you have a nice stack of and a collection of partner solutions, and that trend data sounds like a key one. Are you going to be sharing some of the others as you go through this, or is it kind of a need to know basis?
No, absolutely. I mean, if you're curious to know where we're getting the market data from, we're partnered with WageScape globally to pull in all of the data that they've previously made available through their modules. And we've enhanced that with a customized data feed that's unique to TalentEdgeAI. So the data you can receive through WageScape independently with additional layers of demographic data, psychographic data, turnover insights, as well as breakdowns between contracted temporary job rates for hourly pay, and the breakdown of full-time annual salary rates for full-time employees. So 2 separate data feeds, allowing us to provide a much more comprehensive view of the market. And the 4 years of historical data, they said, is being leveraged for us to take what used to be a manual process for my team and now automate the calculations to provide that forecasted insight for HR strategy. That's the first product that we're bringing to market later this month. And then as we go throughout Q1, iterations of the full platform development are being made available to our clients. So that data that's coming into our platform isn't just being put into the forecasting tool. It's also allowing for our clients to go in and do an iterative search. So interactive requests for different aspects of data, whether they have a combination of skills requirements and, say, educational attestations or security clearances, whether there's certain diversity requirements that they have or certain years of experience that they're looking for, certain time zone constraints. That input will allow the tool to immediately pull up where there's the greatest supply of talent in comparison to the demand in local market. And if their concern is over turnover, they can put that in as a consideration so that it will grade the market recommendations based on turnover risk as well. With that, they're able to see a comparison of some key markets or dive into one they know they have to compare to, and then see which candidates are actually available in that market that they choose. So they double click in, and we leverage a combination of AI sourcing tools that are available today in the marketplace. One is a property of HEXA Ventures, Q Jumpers, and we also partner with a couple of others to bring the candidate data in with contact information available. The other AI sourcing tools that are out there don't achieve the goal we have of increasing recruiter capacity and speeding up the hiring process because, yes, you found this list of candidates, but the recruiter or the TA person still has to reach out to 100 different candidates and send emails or phone in order to get engagement, get access to a resume, and then coordinate a schedule. To alleviate all of those burdens, what we've done is we're integrating InterviewAI, which is another HEXA company. And that's an AA recruitment tool, which allows us to enable the recruiter to simply select all of those candidates and send them each an invitation to interview. It's customized to their experience and their qualifications that align to the job description. They see a view of the job description and the compensation available. They can determine if it meets their needs before ever clicking. And then they, at their convenience, click in and do the first round interview, the L1 interview, with the AI recruitment solution. And then based on the results of those interviews, again, we communicate out to them using Pivot CX to let them know whether they're moving forward or going back into the candidate pool. So what we do with this process is we take days of sourcing and weeks of going back and forth and scheduling, and we compress it into minutes and hours. So that a recruiter can go in and quickly identify candidates for one position, select all, send request to interview, and move on to the next position. So instead of all day in LinkedIn or scouring through resumes all week, you have the ability to find them and reach out and move on to the next one, receiving back the feedback from the AI tool as people complete the interviews so that you can determine next steps and keep the process moving. So again, speeding up the satisfaction of the hiring manager, speeding up the response rate and the feedback to the candidate, and improving the experience for all of the stakeholders involved. And look, we know that there are other tools out there that do each of these pieces, but no one has brought it together in the way that we have. So sure, there's lots of places you can go for various compensation and supply and demand insights. And yes, we all pull them from job postings and the information in the public domain. But very few offer the comparison of accurate annual salary versus hourly pay for our contractors. And while many will provide you with a historical view, none of them bring you forward into that forecasted view that we're offering to our clients. And then as you think about the ability to go from market data to candidate access, very few allow you to dive in and contact the candidates directly. And those that do stop at just that capability. They don't have all of that data on the front end, and they don't drive the automation with AI to complete the process through the interviews. And then other interviewing platforms don't have the power behind it to get to that point. So we remove a lot of those integration points and allow for one seamless process for the recruiters in order to get them through some of the administrative tasks and leave them more time to do the candidate review based on more candidates having gone through the process. So you can negotiate the best compensation, you find better candidates faster, more candidates get interviewed, you reduce the hiring manager burden, you improve the candidate experience, and you have higher acceptance rates because you've used data at every stage of the process in order to facilitate it. But I won't go through the rest of the sales presentation. That's sort of the crux of it. But where we're at right now is engaging with clients and having the opportunity to get their feedback, moving them forward with various pilots and getting them engaged on the platform. So it's been an exciting and exhausting ride for the past month, but we're really happy to be here and to have a chance to talk about it with everyone.
That's amazing. One big benefit I think maybe you missed on your deck there, that recruiters can probably do a 3-day work week now, I think, with all the speed and efficiencies that are coming through this integrated solution. That could be a selling point.
If an organization wants to maintain their current level of business and their current level of revenue, then yeah, they can give them a 3-day work week, or they could allow for greater sales activity and drive more revenue growth and faster speed to revenue. So, that's up to corporate strategy, right? But, they have the option to go either way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Amazing. And sounds like HEXA Venture really has made a big difference in bringing these pieces together, in a collaborative way with Raleen at the helm, right?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And hey, I see Jason put a question in the chat, and I'd love to answer it real fast if you don't mind.
Please.
So Jason was asking if there was an option for agencies and staffing firms to leverage the tool, or if it was really just focused on direct employers. And I'll be honest with you, I think staffing agencies are the #1 buyer of the solution. And when I think about how this will benefit them specifically, increasing recruiter capacity, increasing speed to revenue, and reducing the operating cost per hire are key value propositions. So yeah, what we would look to do is similar to those examples with Career Builder and Monster, do a subscription base per user, offer volume discounts, obviously, but I would envision they would be able to use this for every client with great success. And some of the data that allows for deep client profiling will actually enable them to grow share of wallet with their existing business or improve their performance in MSPs, et cetera. So while we do offer it to direct employers, and we certainly are working with a number of RPOs to figure out the right way to bring it into their business model, the reality is I think staffing firms will be the largest users, at least in the start.
And they tend to be the first adopters too, and they show the employers what they should be doing. And, a year from now,
and some of the employers listen.
That's right. Well, or at least they're smart enough to hire an RPO and have them do it. So it's a good go-to-market. And do you see it being more like a kind of mid-market or enterprise or, SMB or?
Yeah, I see it being more mid-market. When I think about some of the larger global employers that I've worked with in the past, they already have subscriptions to every one of these data sources and have sort of cobbled together their own internal tech version that does what they needed to do. So I have a feeling that there'd be a lot more legacy systems that I'd be working up against and a lot more change management for them to adopt, as opposed to me looking at the mid-market and those employers with 500 to 1,000 employees, limited TA resources. They probably don't have any of these tools other than some resume job boards. So for me, I'm filling a gap there that's unmet in the marketplace today. And I see some questions. Brad was up before Lloyd's.
Lloyd's got his hand up, and then we'll do Brad after that.
Hi, Raleen. Sure, fantastic product and presentation.
Thank you.
I've got some questions at the very top of the funnel. So it looks to me like you're a candidate database of non-opted in candidates. So you're automating cold reach out to them. And is that correct, first of all?
Yes, I mean, a number of them have already been engaged in the past, and so they've re-engaged and can update their profiles on the platform themselves. However, like with any other AI sourcing tool in the market today, they are populated with candidates that are, for the most part, passive. However, we're using the AI tool to ensure that the reach out is very customized to the content of their profile. So if we knew, Lloyd, that you were with your current organization for the last 10 years and had been in a management position for the last 3, we would actually call out that this was a job opportunity based on your years of experience for this, and it would be right in the title. And there would be 3 different types of customization based on your profile in the description and the invitation to interview link. In the test that we've done, we average about a 50% response rate. And I've done it for standard technology positions. I've done it for C-level positions. Obviously, I'm not mass blasting a note out for a chief marketing officer, but if we send out 10, we get 3 to 5 that click through and do the interview. So it's a customization that helps to hook them and keep it from looking like the spam that we all have from ladders and previous resume job searches and whatnot, right?
That was leading to that answered my second question, which was what's more respond than others. So are you mitigating how to scale this? I mean, are you using email, and are you working on staying off of blacklists? Do you have your own IP, or are you reaching out on Facebook or LinkedIn? Like, how are you scaling this to a high volume without getting caught by traps?
Yeah, so we're using, as I said, more than one AI sourcing tool that we're partnered with. And I can only speak to Q Jumpers because it's a HEXA property right now for the US, but we're using a combination of them so that we're able to fill some of the gaps. Some pull from industry associations that they subscribe to, some pull from public profiles that are available through LinkedIn and other networking sites. Some are pulling off of public domain postings and such. When we send out the communications, the primary one that's tied to Interview AI is driven through email, so that invitation to interview, and then it shifts into the interviewing platform. And from there, it can actually connect directly to an ATS, depending on the client's preference for how they want to host the feedback data from that part of the cycle. There's a couple of opportunities to shift where the data is sitting. And then for some of the candidates, we don't have emails, we have phone numbers. So we're in the process of finalizing some agreements with another resource and another partner that would allow for text to follow-up communication from there. So it'd be more of an audio interview for L1 as opposed to the video interviewing with the AI recruiter. So it doesn't sit on our domain, it's hosted in the different parts of the solution so that we eliminate some of that bandwidth.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Floyd, for the question. And thanks, Raleen, for diving in there. It sounds like things are evolving. And we have Brad also asked a question or has a question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Raleen, for such an amazing presentation. Really excited about your product, and nice to meet you, Maan, as well, for being here. I'm excited to get to know you. I'm kind of giddy a little bit that you're in Dubai. I'm originally from Dubai. I built and sold a staffing business specifically in Dubai while I was there between 2004 to 2010. So envying you a little bit for the weather that you're experiencing right now. I'm based in Toronto. Raleen, I have an agency background and I'm just sharing that with you for context so you know where my question is coming from. Built and sold a staffing company, and I've also worked with a public staffing company. When technology started coming into the staffing industry, what it really did is, at least, and I've used a couple. I've used Bullhorn, of course, which Ward is familiar with, and I've used one that was at the public staffing company that I worked with in the past, which was internally built. And when these technologies started coming in, essentially they were resume matching to job matching tools. Essentially what they did is they tried to match, what's on your resume with what's on the job description as quickly as possible. I'm curious about if, from the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion, what does your platform take into consideration? And from a talent matching, as well as from a compensation management, from an equity management part, if there's anything there, either that's part of the platform right now, or if it's as part of the pipeline for where you're going with it.
It's a lot of multi-party questions. So let's start with just thinking about, from an agency perspective, logging into the tool, right? And looking for your search criteria. So a lot of times a staffing agency will be asked to submit at least a portion of diverse candidates in consideration for a role, right? Doesn't mean that they're required to hire a diversity candidate, but they want to make sure they're given full view. When you're looking in IT, if it needs to be on premise in a certain location, there are certain markets that just don't support an organically diverse community. And so then you shift towards something like, say, gender. So what we do in the initial search when you're looking at market comparisons is, if they put in for their criteria that they're looking for an SAP consultant with at least 5 years of business systems analysis in their background, and they want to have someone who is ethnically diverse or female. They can put in those criteria, and we look at sort of the broader workforce demographics, and through the job codes from BLS in each of the communities, we'll highlight those that are naturally more organically diverse. When you actually double click into a market though, say Toronto, and you double click in and you look for that SAP architect with the 5 years of business systems analysis, when you click in, you're going to see everyone who's actively available in that view. You can then filter based on certain demographic requirements. So now you can filter by your years of experience. You can filter by gender, and you'll see if I look for gender in Toronto for these skills, I've just taken my list from 106 to 11, right? So maybe then you go back and say, well, hold on, let me take that filter off. Let me look specifically for bilingual, or for, you can select you can select the different ethnicities, but it has to be self-reported or input somewhere along the way for the tool. We're not going to make assumptions. So you can just view that as the data that's available. And so you see how that impacts your available sourcing. When the AI recruitment tool takes over, they're not assessing. So you can't input in that we want diverse candidates to be evaluated in a different way. So the AI recruiter is based specifically on the questions you ask and the matched response to the answer you provided, and then the characteristics that the person displays based on the preferred characteristics of the recruiter or the hiring manager. So it will grade you on confidence and knowledge and speed to respond, and your posture, your attentiveness during the session, but it won't automatically put female candidates on priority or anything like that. So it's just based specifically on the questions they're asked. So the data allows for filtering when it's available.
Got you. And my last question is on playing the role to support in being a talent partner versus a resume matcher. I'm pretty sure you've seen those recruiters that you've met that work with agencies that are, here's what the job description
Well, and I've worked
says,
at Monster.
right? And then
and I've worked with Monster. I know the rules.
And so I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to match it.
Right.
We don't want to be a resume matcher, right?
Right. And so I'm curious with how the platform works to help recruiters that are recruiting for their clients be a talent partner. So, and what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, someone may not have the 5 years of exact experience with the exact systems experience that a person is looking for in a role, but to be able to identify another candidate with a certain type of different experience, or maybe, what's the word? It's been a while since I've been in the recruiting space. I'm building a tech company for culture right now, but in transferable skills and transferable experience, right? So to say, hey, the
I'll give you
candidate
an
that you're
example.
yeah, please, that would be great.
So it's actually why I like this combination of tools that we brought together to Talent Edge. It's why you shouldn't just have an AI sourcing tool as an independent resource. It's why we pulled the compensation and company data in on the front end. So I was on the phone, I was doing a demo for a staffing company. They were having a very difficult time. They had to find Sapient application developers, and they had to be in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so I'm doing the search live for them in the wage tool first. So what I did was, in the compensation tool, we pulled up all of the employers who in the past year have hired these Sapient developers. And because we pull all of the information off the job posting, we can see what each of those employers paid and what they were offering for compensation. So when we looked, there were 4 or 5 specifically that were hiring consistently for these Sapient developers across the board, not just in California. One was IBM, one was like an ICS consulting firm, and there were a couple of others. And IBM was paying a lot more than the other 3 employers. One of the employers was paying significantly less. So these recruiters had been banging their heads against the wall. They had a very specific budget. They couldn't go above a certain salary. And all of a sudden they were able to see these 2 employers are paying less. So that if we go after anyone in these 2 companies, then we know they'll be more inclined to accept our offer. So then we went to the AI sourcing and double clicked in and said we were only looking for Sapient developers who work in this company. And so they, instead of getting a list of 45 potentially that they could have used, they got 7 from company 1 and 9 from company 2. I actually downloaded it and shared it with them. And they called me back the next day because they got 4 interviews out of it, because they were offering compensation that they could validate was above where these people were. So that's part of the challenge, is if you don't know, if you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and trying to go after anyone with these skills, you're going to spend half your time going after candidates who would never accept the offer you're approved to make. And so that added level of data at the front end minimizes the time wasted on the recruiter's behalf. Just like being able to say, select all and interview minimizes the worry that a recruiter is only going to want to go after and try to interview those that are going to meet all of the criteria. So then you have to spend time filtering through, and half the candidates don't get seen. When you can select all, everyone gets interviewed, and the recruiter spends time on the more meaningful parts of the process.
Got you. Interesting. Fantastic.
May I
I could
add,
keep going.
sorry, Brad. I just wanted to add from my end, because I just spoke at an AI conference, and one of the issues we talked about is the issue of the bias, and that leads to inequity that AI solutions tend to introduce, not because they mean to be biased, just the data, fortunately, that they use will make them be biased. And one of the things that we work with all our AI companies now to encourage them to do is to create tests, ongoing tests of any biases that shows up in their solutions, and figure out a way to correct that bias. In essence, augment the teaching of the machine learning so that it doesn't rely only blindly on the data, but correct it with human intervention so that it's less biased. Bias is going to happen. We need to fix it over time, and we'll get it less and less as it goes forward.
Got you. Yeah, awesome. Awesome. I could have questions up the wazoo, but what you're doing is very interesting, and I'm very excited for you, and Maan.
Feel free to reach out to me. We can schedule more time to talk about it, because I'd love to pick your brain on what your first reactions and thoughts are anyway.
Oh my gosh, I got so much feedback for you. Would love to. Would love to.
Excellent. Anyone else? Thoughts, questions?
Yeah, these are great questions. If anybody has any more, now's the time to ask. Otherwise, you may never see them again. At least in the town hall.
Oh, I plan to be on everyone's LinkedIn feed.
Awesome.
Or do you have time for a question?
Yeah, I'm not sure who asked that, but go for it.
Yeah, thanks. It's Greg Corson. Raleen, really cool. Maan, very interesting. Also been in the recruiting space for a long, long time. I think what I heard you say that attracted me to something that I'm passionate about is you go back into existing databases and re-engage with people who have been, let's just say, stagnant or stale within a company's, ATS inventory or database. Did I hear you say that?
It's not that we go back into other people's stale databases. It's that in the process of recruiting, if we have a recruiter or a user who goes in and sends out invitations to interview to, say, 100 candidates, and let's assume 50 of them complete the process, maybe 20 of them are highlighted for moving forward and having that L2 interview with the hiring manager. The other 30 are going to get actual feedback that says, thank you for completing the interview. Unfortunately, you didn't have enough AWS experience for this position. Could you please we would recommend you go back into the system and update your years of experience and look for a position that was slightly lower than this management position, right? Look for a lead position. So it's going to give them feedback based on the AI recruiter's analysis. And it's going to be automatically guiding them to go back in and update their profile. So that the next time a recruiter goes in and searches, their likelihood of being matched to a more accurate job that they'll be a better fit for is going to be improved. So we'll drive that engagement. We're not looking to replicate a direct sourcing model. It's an evolving view of candidates based on who's available through the AI sourcing at any given time.
Gotcha. Okay. I understood it a little bit differently, and thanks for clarifying.
Sorry, I talk fast. I'm from Boston.
That's okay. You landed a ton of information in a very short period of time.
Yeah. I see a question on the chat here from Jason. How different is the behavior of an interviewing candidate with an AI video interviewer versus a human?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Some people are going to be more awkward than others. One of the things I like about this one is you have the ability to shut off or turn on your own view to see yourself. I find it easier to just talk to the AI avatar versus having to see it next to me. So that was my preference when I went through it. And I've seen a lot of the recorded results of interviews. Some people are naturally stiff, and it takes that into account. So it does a few introductory questions before it dives into the interview so that the AI can assess the respondent's level of comfort. So if they're sort of holding themselves very firmly like this, saying their name, and yes, this is the first time that I've been interviewing this way, it will know that that's their persona and not mark them as being hesitant or shy throughout the rest of the interview. So, I mean, look, human nature, other people will respond in different ways, but it tries as best it can to gauge it on the front end.
All right, sounds good. See a
Brad has
comment
another
in the chat,
question.
but I don't know if that's a question.
Quick question. Does the platform offer candidates feedback on how they did in the interview, like at some point, and make
Yep.
suggestions on, growth plans and development plans, especially because in the staffing agency world, one thing, quite frankly, that we would get bad raps for is for the candidates that we either didn't get back to, don't have the time to get back to, give them feedback on why they didn't get the job or why they, so on and so forth. And, the best of recruiters, quite frankly, were the folks that actually spent a little bit of time with some warm candidates and said, hey, this is how you did. This is what we could be doing better. Hey, you know what? If you really want to go down this path, this is something that you really want to add onto your resume and get on your profile and so on and so forth. And really, basically be a talent partner, not just to their customers, but also to the talent that they're representing, right? So I'm just curious if your platform does any of that, takes that into consideration.
In some part, we're not looking to provide them with all of their career advice. It's more job search advice, right? So for me, for the average response, it would be, Brad, thank you for applying for this interview. Unfortunately, we've decided to go in a different direction. In the future, because you do not have any management experience, if a job requires management experience, it may not be the right fit for you. I would focus more on team lead positions to build up management experience or something simple like that. When it is advancing someone to the next interview to meet with the hiring manager, they'll say, Ward, thank you so much for completing the interview. We are really excited to see you potentially move forward in this role. Maan Hamdan is the hiring manager that is looking to fill this position and bring you onto his team, but he'd like to spend a few minutes with you and schedule time to dive into your Salesforce administrative experience. So be prepared to talk about that. And when you have a moment, click on the link from Maan's calendar below and schedule time to conduct that interview. So it gives them a sense of the feedback of why they're moving forward or why they're not, and gives them that advice of what to focus on or what to shift in their future job search. But for now, our goal with Talent Edge, a very focused commitment, is on improving the hiring process for the key stakeholders, which is the candidate, the hiring manager, and the recruiter, and helping to facilitate the connection faster and more effectively. So to go deeper on the candidate side, it's not even on the roadmap yet, but I certainly agree with you. It's a valuable thing.
Outstanding. Well,
Thank you for sharing that, Raleen.
Yeah, thanks for the great questions from the audience. And with that, I think we'll let Maan get to his very late evening. And Raleen, you're welcome to stay on. We're just going to talk about some of the news that comes up. And unless any of our members today have something of their own to share or an ask of the group. But with that, thank you so much. It's very exciting to see what HEXA Global Ventures has been able to do to help bring this new product to market, and most importantly, to stack those solutions together in a way that is just so effective and so meaningful, and to leverage what's part of the portfolio and solution providers out there that aren't necessarily a portfolio member yet. And it's exciting to see. We're going to certainly be following and looking for future press releases about amazing things. So congratulations to the both of you, and thanks for coming on the town hall and sharing and answering questions. It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.